Hello to everybody who is watching this. I'm here sitting with Rachel Farnsworth, and Rachel is a trauma release expert. She specializes in anxiety and autoimmune disease, and I've invited her to the Happiness Hub here, where I'm running interviews, speaking with some people that are doing some really interesting things in the field of anxiety. Because as you know, I work in nutrition as a nutritional therapist, and it is so important when you're dealing with any kind of health issue that you deal with it on both sides, from a direct physical perspective, but also from the psychological, mental perspective. So it's what Rachel does is a very nice complement to what we do in nutrition. And so Rachel, thank you for being here today, and you're very welcome. And if you would like to take it a little bit further and explain in your own words what it is you do, and also kind of how you got into the different therapies, because you do rapid transformational, what is it? Rapid
Transformational therapy, yes.
Transformational therapy, exactly. So tell us a little bit about that, how you got into it, because it's a really interesting story.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me here, Joyce. It's so good to see you. So how I got into it was, well, I never really knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. That was the thing. And I was sort of 47. My children had decided that they needed to go and live with their dad. Because I was in a relationship, so I hadn't actually quite worked out what it was. I was married, but the word toxic hadn't actually, I didn't know what narcissistic was and all that sort of stuff. So they decided to go and live with their dad. And actually that's part of one of my co-author books, is that story of how I felt so broken and so unfixable, because what I thought I wanted in my life had just sort of fallen apart. And the only thing really that really mattered to me was being a mum. That was my core belief of who I was. And I was even working at a school so that I could work all around all the children's hours, so that I was at home when they were at home, that their holidays were my holidays, because that was what I was absolutely focused on. As long as everybody else was okay, everything was okay. Didn't matter about me. Okay. So when they went away, what do I do? Anyway, so one of my friends said that she always thought I'd be good at as being a psychotherapist, and I always thought, oh, I don't know how long does that take to train to start with, and then what do you do with that, right? How do I? Yeah, so it's just like, no, I don't think so. So I thought counselling would be a really good thing, that I could do that, because I'm a good listener. So that was kind of where I was going, and I found a course that was local to me, that was in counselling, and it took 2 years. But the first year, before you even start the counselling course, you had to do hypnotherapy. I didn't want that, but it was just the best course I could find locally. So I decided I'm just going to sleepwalk through the hypnotherapy thing and then get into the I never did the counselling course.
No.
Now I got a refund. Because hypnotherapy, the first lesson was actually quite interesting. Who knew? And the second lesson, well, the teacher didn't turn up, so I started Googling hypnotherapy, and Marissa Peer popped up, who taught me with the rapid transformational therapy. And the more she was talking about how the subconscious mind works and how you can actually get your mind to work for you instead of against you, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And the more she was talking, the more I was like, I've got to do this. I've got to do both courses. Yes, poof. Why do they not teach this in school? Right? And it was just, the more they would. So yeah, I just had to train in that. So in the end, I ended up doing 2 courses. I ended up doing RTT as well as the hypnotherapy course locally as well, which was a bit mind-boggling, but I did them both.
Great, good. And so share with me then, or share with us, all of us that are watching, this concept that you touched on when I spoke to you last, about your anxiety and how it punishes you and protects you. What is the difference between the two? How do we perceive it? How do you look at it and approach it?
Well, it can be both, really. It's just how the client sees it, how it's working in their mind. Usually it's there to protect you, because your subconscious mind is there to keep you on high alert. It's there to keep you, ultimately it's there to keep you alive. So what better way than to keep you on high alert? So it's usually there to protect you. And if you like, in high alert, back in the day when the saber-toothed tiger was going to come and eat you kind of thing, it's there just to like keep you on that high alert. What happens if? But actually we don't live in those times anymore, and probably the worst thing that's going to happen potentially is the boss is going to have a go at you, or it's that kind, or you get in a traffic jam or something like that. It's not generally not life-threatening. It can be sometimes, but genuinely a lot of the time it's not. So it's just about finding out, when I'm working with a client, is finding out what it's there for them, the specific role for them, why it's there. Is it there to protect them? Is it there to punish them? How old does it think they are? Because very often it isn't the age that they are now. It's like, oh, it thinks I'm 3 or 4. And that's really exciting. It's like, oh, what happened when you were 3? What happened when you were 4? And we go back to where that all began. And it can be something at play school, or something at school, or something their parents said, or all sorts of things. And it's just that the subconscious mind doesn't upgrade. It still thinks you're that age. It's still that little wounded child within you. And so by looking at it and like, but that's not you now. And it's about empowering them from that scene, or those scenes, because we go to at least 3 to see where it all began. Because the thing is, our subconscious mind lights up like a string of lights. So it's like, if you've got like an anxious situation now, it'll be, don't you remember when, and it's like lit it all up, the whole sequence of all those times when you felt like that, and it compounds it, and it just, oof. So it's and then it feels so real, because it's reminding you of all those times when you felt like that. So it's just looking at it, analysing it, releasing it, understanding that that isn't who you were. You're not 4, you're not 5, you're not at school. And it's about taking your power back. What can you do then that you couldn't? What can you do now that you couldn't do then? If it was a school situation where you can get up, you can walk away and go, I'm done with school, right? It's that kind of thing. It's about adding a little bit of humour to it too, so they can see how, there's got so many more choices as an adult than they didn't have when they were a child, or whatever it was. And I've released post-traumatic stress with a client in one session.
Wow.
And that was wow. It was such an amazing, and that was another situation where I just thought, I've got to get out there and tell the world that the answer's not in a bottle of pills, because she was held at knife point when she was 6 years old, and she's really happy for me to tell that story. And she remembered what that was. Of course she did. She was on the way to get an ice cream at the beach, and she was held at knife point. Mm-hmm. And so she was there thinking, what if that person comes back again? What if I'm now a mum? What if? So that's where her post-traumatic stress came from. But I was sitting there looking at her going, oh, wow, you got away, you were 6, how awesome are you? So I helped her empower herself and really see that, she got away. How amazing was she? And I really helped her nurture. To start with, she was like, no, but. And I'm like, no, but look, really see how amazing you are. And there was other scenes we went back to show the car accident as well. And because she was in flight or flight, she absolutely went over the top with how she was going to protect the children. She walked a mile to drop the children off to her mother-in-law's, walked back, dealt with the injuries that the driver had that hit her, and then collapsed of her own injuries on the road.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just there going, how amazing are you? So that was the thing we did. It was just about empowering her so that she could see, well, actually, yes, I have all the abilities in me. I can trust myself. And that was the big thing. It was about learning that, yes, how amazing she was, what amazing coping skills she really does have, how she can trust her own intuition. Mm-hmm. And then, so this was just a 1-2 hour session that we had. She didn't need anything else. So at the end of the session, we were working face to face back then, and she was leaving the clinic, and she got down the steps, and there was a mirror right by the door, and she just stopped abruptly, and she looked at the mirror and she said, "You see that?" And I'm like, "No, not really. What's that?" She goes, "Oh, it's a scar that I had from that knife attack." Never look in the mirror, but actually that's my warrior wound. I'm loving it now. Oh, okay. That's great. And
So she moved from feeling like
yeah,
a victim to feeling like a warrior in one session.
in 2 hours. Yeah,
That
she
is
did.
amazing.
Yes, she did. And she's like, "Do you know what I'm going to do now?" And I said, "No, I've no idea." She goes, "I'm going to go shopping." I was like, "Okay." She goes, "No, Rachel, you don't understand."
Yeah.
I said, "What?" She goes, "I haven't been shopping for," I can't remember how long she said, but it was 2 years plus that she hadn't been shopping on her own. And she hadn't been shopping with a partner for a long time either. Yeah. She said, "But I'm going to go on my own. It's my son's birthday next week. I'm going to get him a birthday card, and I'm going to go now." And that's what she did. Yeah. Now she's a landscape gardener loving her life.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's how, when you get to the root cause, I think that's another session that really empowered me to help other people. It's like, okay, because it's just seeing her as well, just going, leaving the office. She came like this, shaking, not even wanting, only there because her husband said, "You've got to do something." Right. And so it was just, yeah, amazing session. And yeah, so that is, it is all about how your mind perceived it. It's not really what happened to you, it's the emotions you've attached to it. I mean, it can be something traumatic like that, but equally it can be something at school, or even like a photograph session. I've had that too, where someone's just having a photograph taken, and she's like, "I don't even know why I'm here, because I'm not in the right scene." It's like, okay, well, your mind's brought that up for a reason. Let's have a look at it. Well, I'm at school, but it's not my new, it's my old school, not my new school. And so I don't feel like I fit in with these people. She having a photograph taken, it was some sort of religious festival thing. So she had to go back to the old school, to whatever it was. And so she was like, "I don't belong at this school. These people aren't my friends anymore. They've all moved on, and I don't belong. I can't connect with them. But I don't belong in my new school either." And that's massive trauma for a little child, to feel like they don't fit in. I'm not enough. I don't belong. What I want isn't available. There are three fundamental things that are wrong with all of us. It's the three fundamental trauma responses. So when she could see that, even though it was just something like normal situation, just having your photograph taken, it's the emotions you've put to it that are the traumatic thing.
And what are those three traumatic?
I'm not enough. I'm not X enough. I'm not smart enough, good enough, whatever enough. Right? It's all those extra bits. I'm not enough. What I want isn't available.
Okay.
And I can't connect to other people.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that's the only three things really. But we've all gone through thousands of those events in our lifetime. So we've all had that trauma.
Yeah.
And they've all made us believe. And that's the thing, when you release the trauma, you see your true self. Yeah. Because of that traumatic self, you're not thinking that you're lovable. You don't believe that what you want is available potentially. And when you release that trauma, it's so easy to fall in love with yourself. Because that trauma's gone. You're like, "Oh, there I am."
Yeah.
And it's like releasing the clouds almost, and seeing yourself for who you really are.
Yeah. I've heard it kind of described as filters that you pick up. It's like each filter is like something that your parents or your teachers or somebody told you that you were. And so you've been like pigeonholed, and you keep yourself in that pigeonhole. And so that can be maybe talked about like trauma, but then you're there to help people pull back those filters and see the bare self.
That's right. They're all things that people have put on you that you believe to be true about you, that aren't true about you, but they feel so true. And that's when you get that sort of push-pull feeling, because you think you're this, but actually you're that. And it's so weird, because it's other people's perspectives of you, that they've told you that's who you are. People like us don't do whatever, or you're not smart, or whatever it is, and that label, and then we think we're a failure because we're not this or that.
Yeah. Now, so you mentioned before that you really helped that woman in one session, and maybe that's going to seem really hard to believe for some people. So do you have it that maybe you help them in one session, but eventually like they forget what you taught them or what you showed them, and then they have to come back? Or it really like...
Yeah, really, no, I don't feel they do need to, because it's releasing it at the root cause.
Right.
So it's like pulling out a weed, and the weed doesn't grow back.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. It's not me sort of saying, well, you're amazing. It's actually, they believe it, they see it, they feel it, right? It's in a core belief about themselves. It's not me just saying, oh, well, Rachel said. No, they actually feel it, because they've released it, they've looked at it, they've analysed it, they've released whatever it is that they need to.
Yeah.
And I don't offer just one sessions now, because I can't guarantee that's how they'll feel in one session. It's I usually do 4. So it's hand holding, nurturing, let's work on the next, let's just it's more of a nicer journey to go on, or the healing part, to just see where you go, and to be that nurturing and to hand hold more so. Yeah, that was way back in the beginning. That was in 2019 when I did that.
Oh yeah.
So at the very beginning of everything, it was like, oh wow. We were both like blown away by that. And again, that was probably the second session that I'd had with that amazing. The first one was my daughter. There was another one with a skin condition, and it was those 3 that like, oh right, I really have got to get out there and tell the world.
It really blows your mind. So tell us a little bit about your daughter, because she had quite a serious health condition. Tell us about that.
Yes, she did. She was diagnosed with juvenile idiopathic arthritis when she was 18 months old. So juvenile is young, idiopathic means no known cause, and arthritis is joint pain. So she had joint pain since she was 18 months old, and she started walking wrongly, throwing her leg out. So we went to the doctors, and we were doing all the things, getting the medication, all the blood tests, all the stuff that we were told that we had to do. And fast forward sort of 14 years, she'd been on drug-induced remission for 2 years when she was 14. And they thought that maybe she'd outgrown it. So they suggested that she come off the drugs and see how we go. And we were both like, oh, this is exciting. Maybe this time you've outgrown it. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Now, this was October 2018.
Yeah. And
she hadn't outgrown it. 8 weeks of not taking the drugs, 8 weeks of not self-injecting. She started having the flare-ups again. Her joints were really painful, and the doctors were saying, oh no, you need to go back on medication. Now, isn't it funny how I qualified in June 2018, and this is now October 2018. I got no idea why I was training in this method. I just knew I had to. Now this is the reason. Right, isn't it weird?
Because
very, very odd. And it was just that synchronicity is best. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't believe, all I got in my head was just I was going to file this certificate. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. So when we're like, oh, physical condition, can't do that. I know Marissa Peer, who's trained me, I know she's done, but I'm not her. And this was before I realised that emotional pain and physical pain is really the same thing. It's your body saying, will you please just look at this? It's emotions that get stuck in our body. But I hadn't sort of joined those two things together at that point. So it just felt like it was a big thing to do, which it is a big thing to do, but it still felt a bit too like, ooh. And when I was talking to another RTT therapist, she said, well, so what? Because Marissa also says 1 in 3, normally, you can help somebody overcome an issue in 1 to 3 sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that felt like a big, ooh, I don't think I can do that. So why even try? That was my mentality, right? But one of the ladies said, well, so what if it takes 50? She's your daughter. I was like, oh yeah, I can do 50.
Yeah.
I can do, yeah. Oh, that's okay. So we decided to have a session together. My daughter was as skeptical as I was, quite honestly, but we thought we'd give it a go.
Yeah.
And we got to her root cause in that one session again.
Wow.
And for her, it was all about, I need pain to be like other people. Because and I was like, well, I'm not in pain. Who's your everybody? I don't understand. But it was her brother and her cousins who'd all had pain of their own when she was diagnosed. Around about that time, they'd all had the same. They'd had asthma, and one of them had had cancer, and one of them had had a hernia. Mm-hmm. But she could see now that even though they were better, and even if they weren't, she could also see that her pain wasn't helping them. Mm. She was able to just release it. So that was the role function to her pain, was that I need pain to be like everybody.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, isn't it? And so she was able to just release it. Again, that was just one session. Here's me thinking I needed to give her 50. So again, that was okay, I have got to get out my own way. That was my first session of really, not believing in me, but believing in the method, and having enough love for my daughter to actually give it a go. And yeah.
Your daughter being open to it as well.
Yeah, she was very skeptical. She didn't, I'm just talking to you with your eyes closed. It'll be fine. Okay. The worst that can happen is that nothing happens. That's it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't nothing that happened. It was something really significant. And now she's trained to be a hairdresser. That she wanted to do that since she was a really tiny little girl. Her dolls were always immaculately with the hair. They might be naked upside down in the pushchair, but they've always got good hair. And so that's something she'd always wanted to do. So she didn't think she was going to be able to do that because of the pain that she was in. But now she can hold scissors, she can do all the things, she can stand up, she can, she's pain-free, symptom-free, and medication-free, most importantly. She has been since October 2018. And of course, the doctors just say, oh, she must have outgrown it. But how do you do that when you're in the middle of a flare-up?
Yeah, exactly.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I wonder, we didn't talk about this before, but did she have tests done at the time to look at her inflammatory markers, and they had gone down and everything?
Yeah, they had. Yeah, everything was just like, oh, well, perhaps we must have had a fake reading before, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they believe. The fact is that she felt the release. I saw the release because she felt all her joints sort of click back into place as we were talking. It was a beautiful thing.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So the work that you do is it's releasing the trauma that you maybe experienced as a child, and potentially has caused your anxiety or has caused an autoimmune flare up, right? Because definitely stress causes a lot of inflammation in the body. So
it's all emotional. Yeah, you can't separate the mind and body.
No.
So it's just emotions, and trauma is anything we've gone through that we didn't process properly. So it can be, like I said, it can be like having your photograph taken, or it can be something really significant, like we were talking earlier as well. It's just those emotions that aren't processed, we tend to stuff them down.
Yeah.
And then not deal with them. So these emotions are like negative energy, I guess, sort of training emotions, if you like. They're there to teach us stuff. Only we sort of push them down. We don't want to feel bad, so we just stuff them down. And then it comes up, and it's just the body going, will you look at this? That's all it is. It's a message. Will you look at and have a look at what's going on?
Yeah, the brain is such a powerful has a powerful effect on the body. Yeah,
absolutely.
And you do something called silent counselling. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, well, silent counselling was something that popped into my world about Christmas time last year. I was looking for doing something with group people, with a lot of groups, really. And although RTT is amazing, it's difficult to sort of hold that space when you regress back to people, to what it's all, where their root cause is, and to sort of imagine all that infinite possibilities that they've gone back to and all this sort of stuff.
You mean a lifestyle? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it could be anything.
Okay.
So this is about releasing energy and using your body's meridian points, using acupuncture pressure points,
right,
and putting positive emotions in as well. And when working with one-to-one, you can also go back to the root cause of where it all began. So my core beliefs are that life is for living and not therapy. And that's what this does as well. And also, I think healing at the root cause is a really significant thing as well, because you're not then repeating patterns. So this does that too. So it was like, yes, I need to do this. I need to add that in. And so it is just using acupuncture pressure points to release. And I've just finished my first Anxious to Awesome in just 6 weeks course. And that was amazing. It was just so beautiful. And people have got tools and techniques that they can take away with them as well in the future, so that they can learn to trust themselves. It's about muscle testing as well. So you learn to trust your body, what's right and wrong for you, listening to that, which is great. And also learning how you can release emotions yourself going forward, because we're still going to go through whatever in the future too.
And is that online or in person, the course that you ran?
It was online. We did it in person too, but it was online.
Anxious to Awesome. That's
just 6 weeks. It was amazing. Yes.
Yeah. And so you mentioned something about habits. Is that like helping? So is Anxious to Awesome also helping you break habits, or that's more in the RTT?
I think that's more in the RTT. The silent counselling is just not just. I don't mean that in a only. Yeah, it's about releasing emotions that are stored in the body, and they're all, certain emotions get stored in certain areas as well. So that's really interesting to, again, see where the pain is. It's quite often where the trauma is, where the emotion is. So yeah, it's really good. I'll give you a couple of demonstrations at the end if you like.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. And so just to go back to the habit breaking, because when I work with my clients, we are often talking about building new habits. So taking micro steps in order to initiate change. And I wonder whether doing some RTT with you would be a great way to also like help ensure that you're breaking the old habits while you're building the new ones.
Yes, absolutely.
Wouldn't that be a nice start?
Yeah, because the habits become, they're in the subconscious, aren't they? So you don't really know what habits you're doing.
No.
But it's the emotions, and then it's the habits that form from those emotions, that I'm not this enough, or I can't do this, or people like me don't. It's the trauma response that then makes us have those beliefs and the habits. So it's just looking at, if you've got a particular habit that you want to break, it's looking at where that began. Yeah, as well, so you can analyze and release it. It's the same as your mind knows. That's the thing. You don't have to make your mind show you. It's just your mind knows how, when, and why it all began. It's been recording everything like a DVD or a hard drive in a computer. It's been recording everything since the minute you were born. So it's just looking at it. You just go back like a daydream. It's beautiful. It's just like, oh, well, I'm thinking, I'm in the garden and I'm 5 or something.
And so if one of the things that we talk about with anxiety in my work is around balancing your blood sugar level. And I have a lot of clients who have a real addiction to sugar. So if they want to break a sugar habit, they could start working with me and think, okay, I need to break the sugar habit. They could come see you as an adjunct to what we're doing together. Right, so that they can figure out where has this addiction come from, or where has the whole reaching for the cake or the biscuits or something, where has that come from, so we can break that and then move on and start including healthier foods instead.
Yeah, it's often from childhood, you know, if you fell over and your mum just go, here's a biscuit, right? Or that sort of thing, or you felt loved by grandma when she gave you a biscuit or a cake or something. It's that kind of all sugar equals love. That's that kind of mindset of what happened when you were a child. How you were self-soothing, really. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, so many of us talk about these comfort foods, right? They're often things that we grew up with and that we still soothe ourselves with. Yeah. And I always try to encourage parents to, instead of using food as a reward or food as a soothing thing, that you do other things, you know, non-food related rewards and appeasements. But so amazing to think of a practical way that your work can also help clients that are trying to break habits around their nutrition. So yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and weight is really, any weight loss, you know, when people are trying to lose weight and they can't, it's usually because the reason why they can't lose the weight isn't anything to do with their fault. It's a trauma response. It's a habit, like you said, that's in them, and it's good looking at it, where it all began. Is it to protect or to punish? It could be to protect. Maybe something happened when they were little, or maybe it was some abuse. But it's whatever it is, it might have been that you said to yourself, I need to be bigger. Perhaps, or it could be that if I'm bigger, people won't be able to do X, Y, Z, or even just that there's so much emotional trauma lying in your body, you've just stuffed it down, so you've physically got to be bigger. Yeah, it can be a combination of all sorts of things, but it's just looking at it. Your mind knows where it all began. It's just looking at it to analyse it. It's amazing, and it doesn't have to take years and years of come back next week at all.
No. And you offer that kind of safe and open space that people can examine it. And
yeah, it's non-judgmental. That's what I like. It's just, I often say to my clients, roll the dice again. I'm you, you're me. So it's just have a look, you know, there's no judgment. Let's just have a look. This is what happened when you were X, you know, 6, 7, 8, whatever it was, or even older. But your mind will know where you need to go. It's just looking at it and releasing whatever we need to.
Yeah. Have you worked with clients that are older, that have had these things that for a long, long time? Like I'm talking 50 years or something. Yeah. Because I imagine, I think it would be harder for them to let go of it, maybe harder for them to explore it. But I want to know, can they feel like they can approach you and explore it, and it doesn't have to be hard? And yeah. Yes,
absolutely. They still know, even though they're like, well, I'm I don't know, 77 now or whatever. Yes. I've had a client around that age. Well, I've had several clients who have been older than me. And one had got really significant breathing condition when for a long time she was not a smoker, but she's still got a real bad breathing problem, and we went back to when she was very small. She's one of 12, and her belief was that I need to be sick in order to get attention. That was what hers was. And that, again, breathing is all about life, isn't it? It's about the breath of life. And she just felt, I'm trying to remember because it's quite a while ago, she was, because she was one of 12, her parents went out. She was the youngest of 12. Her parents went out at the weekend, and so she had to be with either one sister or one of the 2 older sisters. She didn't really want to be with either of them. She wanted to be with her mum and dad because she was little. And so she got to make this choice, and she didn't want to make the choice because she felt that one of the others would have been, you know, if she said yes, they were like, oh, not you again. Or maybe they were like, oh, but I should, you know, feeling that she'd left one of them out, all this sort of conflict of emotion that she was experiencing. And she could see that that was how she coped as the little one, but she didn't need to be ill anymore in order to get attention.
Yeah.
And she didn't even know that's what she was holding on to. She didn't know that's how she'd perceived that she needed to be.
Yeah. It's amazing what we do to ourselves, or what our subconscious does to us. But it's just a signal, right? Pain and illness, it's a signal that something needs to change.
Yes, that's all it is. That's all it is. I was going to say something then, but I've just forgotten. But it'll come back to me if I need to remember. So I know what I was going to say. It's like subconscious. I don't know whether you're familiar with Blackadder. TV program.
But I know of it, but
okay. Well, there's Baldrick in there, and Baldrick used to come up with a cunning plan, and I like that sort of thing, because that's what our subconscious mind does. It comes up with this cunning plan. Leave that with me. It's not logical. It's completely illogical, but it's just like, oh, you know, it's just seeing it and doing something else completely random about it. And that's what it is. So it's not your fault. It's just, let's look at it and to see, you know, what is the truth for you, how it became about, and then you can look at it and release whatever you need to.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. And so you, you are going to share with us an ebook that you've created, which is 3 top tips on how to manage anxiety that you can put into practice today, right? So I think that's a really nice compliment, because I also have a similar ebook on mindful eating, and that is also trying to really calm down the immune system so that you're really calm. So that'll be nice. I'll share both of those links with all of our viewers.
That'd be great.
You'll be able to find it on the YouTube channel, and then everyone can find you at wellnesswithrachel.co.uk on your website, and then you have links to your Facebook group and your personal Facebook page, business Facebook page, all of these things. Where would you suggest people go to first to find you and connect with you?
Well, I've got my group, Overcoming Anxiety, Depression and Chronic Conditions. Yes. So that's where I am sort of around more often. So if you want to come and join me there, if you find me Rachel Claire Farnsworth on Facebook, there's a link on my bio of how to, for my group there.
Okay, and what is the link exactly? I'll put it below as well, but can you just mention it again? Yes,
it's Overcoming Anxiety, Depression and Chronic Conditions.
Okay, so they can search in Facebook for that. Okay, excellent. And so what was the exercise that you were going to do with us?
Okay, well, I was just going to help you release a little bit of anxiety, because I'm using silent counselling. And so it's all stored in our body. And so first one I want to do is just, the pressure point for anxiety is just here, underneath our eyes.
I'll do it with you.
Okay, and that is linked straight, and I don't know whether you think about it, but when you do that, you probably feel it in your stomach, right? So it's just taking a breath in, acknowledging anxiety, and just releasing it in 2 breaths. So just breathing in, acknowledging anxiety, and just breathing it out, just thanking it for being there and just letting it go. So breathing in, just acknowledge it and just let it go. This is fear, worry, anxiety. It's all just stored in our, and we know, don't we, as soon as you feel that fear or worry, it's right in your stomach. It's just that acknowledging it and just releasing it. That's the first one. The second one is on your collarbone, and that's primal fear. So that's right on our kidneys. Fight or flight. Oh yeah. Okay, so it's just acknowledging the primal fear as you breathe in, and just releasing it.
Out with 2 breaths as well?
2 breaths, because 2 is more powerful than 1, that's all. But it really, because if you go, or you can really feel that you're doing it, it's more powerful, right? So just breathing in, acknowledging primal fear, knowing you don't need it anymore, and just breathing it away. Breathing in whenever you're ready, acknowledging it. Doesn't that feel good?
It does.
Isn't that amazing? That's just 2 little pressure points. You can do it in the supermarket, right? In the queue. You're paying for the, and then just tap some really positive things instead. I feel amazing. I've got amazing coping skills. I can do anything I put my mind to. I have phenomenal coping skills. I'm amazing. I'm calm, confident, and in control. And that's all we need. But I mean, there's more to it than that, but that's just for 2 little takeaways. That's really powerful.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you so much, Rachel. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate you being here with us today, and
Thank you.
I look forward to looking at the ebook that you're sharing with us. And yeah, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here.